Hey, it is Tuesday evening. Welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I am John. I am a Gen X Grown Up, and I'm joined here by two of my friends and colleagues. We've been working together for a little while now, and I would like to introduce to you uh, Anthony Great, who goes by Tony to avoid confusion because we have two Tonys here, and also Anthony Rapino. Hey guys, how you doing?
Pretty
Good.
good. How you?
Great, great. So Tony and Anthony, again, to avoid confusion, these two gentlemen, they have just recently released Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions. Now, this is a novel that is near and dear to my heart, likely to the hearts of our audience, to anyone who loves Generation X nostalgia and the things that we enjoyed in our youth invoke in us. And so we wanted to get together and share. The book just dropped just a couple weeks ago, right? Not too long ago.
On the
A
18th.
little over a month at this point, I
About a
think.
month, a few weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So just about a month ago, and sales are going well so far. But what we want to do is sit down and talk to our audience about this book because I would be remiss if I didn't make sure that you guys understood what it is in this book. Now, it might not be for everyone, but if you're a reader and you're a Gen Xer and you like the kind of stuff that we do at Gen X Grown Up here on the podcast, there's a strong possibility that you might find something to enjoy here. I tend to think that you will. And the guys actually offered, hey, if you find something in this book as we talk about it, and you would like to order yourself a copy, they're going to do two cool things. First, there's a link in the description of the video that you can click on. It goes directly to Amazon. Use that link to get the book. And if you'll then go to the second link and just fill in like your name and order number from Amazon, that's going to help Gen X Grown Up. You may know that we are currently in the midst of trying to make Gen X Grown Up our full time gig. Certainly I am, since my employer decided I was no longer necessary. So now I'm focusing all my time and efforts here. So that would go a long way. And plus, it doesn't cost you a thing, and it's an opportunity to get a great book to help GXG and get yourself a good read that you're probably going to enjoy. I want to, a few other people have jumped in. I saw John is here, Miss So, Inscrutable Al. I said hey to you. I saw that Will is here from 1980s Now. Thanks everybody for being here. I wanted to start by asking you guys, and it could, Tony, Anthony, whoever wants to jump in. Um, I know this isn't your first rodeo writing a book, but this particular book, Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions, what inspired you to say, I need to put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard or whatever it is you do these days? I need to get this out in the world. Where did this come from?
This originates with Tony, so I'm gonna let him go first on
Okay.
this one.
All right.
Yeah, I would say I had a couple of stories that I actually attempted to write myself.
Mhm.
Well, one in particular, and not being a writer or having a background in writing, I was more of an illustrator or a designer, and so as I would work on my writing, I would be working on the same 40 or 50 pages and rewriting the same 40 or 50 pages, never satisfied, always disappointed. And then the stories,
So you are a professional writer then. That's, that's the definition of it.
that is the definition, yeah. Well, that was my uh, whole view of it was that, I don't know what the process is, writers do. So I guess I'm just not meant for this. But I still had those stories in my mind, and this one in particular um, inspired by the core of it was inspired by events from my childhood. In particular, my um, fandom of Masters of the Universe and a contest that Mattel held around 1985, which I entered. And then just the idea, and then also some elements of uh, difficulties that I went through, parental struggles, things of that nature. Um, so uh, I had given up on writing for a while, but with that story especially still, in my head, I
Mhm.
thought maybe eventually I'll come to this, some other way. And it occurred to me, I know Anthony, He's a writer. He's already had books published. He's a professor. So thought, why haven't I come to him before now with this?
Gotcha.
He was like the only person that in my head that I would work with on this. So I thought, well, either he's going to be, kind of apprehensive and be like, that's not really what I'm up for, or he's going to be excited for it. Thankfully, it was excitement that he was feeling. So, but yeah, basically inspired by events in my life as the core, which he built out as an entire world and an entire story, and then just worked together to get it into shape.
That kind of leads me to another question. I want to pause a second in case Anthony has anything to add to that. I want to talk about that world you've created, but I'm going to pause real quickly and make sure I don't step on you.
Yeah, well, I guess the only thing I would add as far as the original question goes is that, and we could talk more about this in more detail
Mhm.
later. We'll get to your question first, but the cool thing about this, as we started writing, as I started working on this, is that a lot of both of our childhoods had parallels, and as we worked, we kept noticing these strange occurrences where we were both like right on the same page about stuff, and like, and this is a weird example. Maybe it's not a one-to-one example or anything, but in the way that Tony entered that Masters of the Universe contest,
Mhm.
I also created characters and sent them away to try to get them made. But it wasn't for Masters of the Universe; it was for Battle Trolls. I don't know
Battle
if you remember
trolls.
the old Battle Trolls. Yeah,
Okay.
just randomly, a friend of mine and I, decided to. We decided we knew better than the toy designers over at Mattel. We were like, or Hasbro, I think, but we can do better. We sent them, and they actually replied, kindly told us to f off in the nicest way possible. But it was still a cool experience, and those kinds of parallels as we were writing really kept popping up. It's cool.
Yep. So to go right into what you kind of sparked here, Tony, you talked about, Anthony helped to create this world, this universe, and certainly any piece of fiction you have characters in a world, in a universe, but to my perspective, like you guys have really gone well above and beyond to create not just a universe for these characters and this story and for the protagonist to kind of dream in and work and live in, but like you've done a lot to create like peripheral material, and like you're working on action figures and taking a cue off of, it seems to me the reason that Gen Xers love the things they love is often because of the tangible stuff you have to go around it. Why did you choose to go beyond the book and do all this? I mean, like I'm looking around and like, look, I have a comic book that you gave me, right? So I don't usually get a comic book with my books, but you guys wrote that too, right? There's just all this cool peripheral stuff. I mentioned the figures and stuff. Why, or what inspired you to want to do all that extra stuff?
I think it was that it presented this opportunity to do things promotionally that the I would never have the opening to do with any other, probably any other endeavor. So
Hmm.
I'd always wanted to make action figures just to see, what that was like. But it's always cost prohibitive.
Hmm.
If you're saying I'm doing it for promotion or marketing, then hey, it kind of fits into a budget, a marketing budget, a little easier, anyways. And so, and also just to be different, like maybe help the story stand out, but also provide like a reader a way to connect with Tommy and his world, with the actual figure that he probably would hold in his hand, and the actual cartoon intro that he would see, if he existed.
Hmm.
Things like that that really just like suck you into the story like that much more. Invest a person into the story that much more. So yeah, I think two things: just the opportunity to be able to do something like that I probably would never have otherwise.
So you climbed the mountain because it was there. That's part of it. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just the other thing, just being, the ability to help somebody make a stronger connection
Hmm.
with story and characters.
So Anthony, I know that this was a lot of this came out of the mind of Tony, and so what are your thoughts on all this extra material? This is not your, as I said, not your first novel, not your first work like this. I'm guessing it's probably the first time you have built this world outside of the book that people can put their hands on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've told this, I've said this before to other people, but I had no idea. I had no idea the lengths to which Tony was gonna go. And I mean, I'm sitting here in my little cave, with the torch on the wall by myself for months, just toiling away at the novel, and Tony's popping out like, yeah, we're gonna make some action figures. No big deal. Yeah, there's gonna be a licensed soundtrack. Stan Bush is doing the theme
Well,
song.
soundtrack, that's another thing, right? You have music, you have videos, you have so much extra peripheral stuff. Maybe we show one of those. Maybe let's give the people watching an idea. So I think this first is the teaser trailer. Was this the first piece that you guys put out, I think, in advance of the book to kind of talk about the world? You want to set this up? What are we going to see?
It was one of the, like, media creations. I don't know that it was the first,
Okay.
but this was I didn't even realize that book trailers existed.
I didn't either.
I didn't know they were a thing, but they're actually pretty important to some
Hmm.
marketing. And I thought, well, I like making trailers and videos, so I'm online finding a template that I like that I can, piddle around with and change around to suit my needs. And I was familiar with video editing software and such, and found music, found elements that I wanted to include. And the main thing when you're putting together a trailer is just trying to tell a quick, uh, give a quick overview of what they're about to see, and what the product is about. So
Okay.
I think it does a good job of that.
All right. So I'm going to throw to that real quick. I just want to say hi. I see that I see Stubaka and Marcus popped in. I'm going to make sure I say hi to Rediscover the 80s who's here. I'm going to show you this trailer when we get back. I also see that 1980s Now had a question in chat, and we're going to get to that. So right now, let's take a look at this Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions trailer, teaser trailer. Here we go. Yeah, so that's a book trailer. I didn't know that was a thing either. So I just saw Stubaka said book ordered and confirmed. I think you're going to dig it, Stubaka. Nice. So I promised when we got back we were going to talk about 1980s Now's question. And he was asking, Order of the Cosmic Champions, such a great name. What were any alternate names for the fictional cartoon or toy line that you didn't use? Do you remember, like thing works in progress that didn't survive the cut?
Yeah, actually, it started out as Overlords of the Cosmos.
Overlords.
Yeah, and which I thought was really cool. But when I started to provide some of the names of characters and of the novel itself and the IP and the fictional IP in the story.
Mhm.
The IP lawyers were like, maybe you should differentiate more than Masters of the Universe, and so that's how I happened upon Order of Cosmic Champions.
Got it.
Yeah, there was didn't r- correct me if I'm wrong here. I vaguely remember. Does something else also exist under that Overlords of the Cosmos name though?
I think so. Yeah, I think there was like somebody customized figures or something and called them Overlords of the Cosmos. If I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong there, but
Yeah, that's going back a couple years in the memory banks, and you know how that happened. It corrupted a little bit, but
yeah.
um, going back to what with the world building that we were talking about
Mhm.
earlier, I was just I don't know. I was thinking about this, and it occurred to me I don't know what came first because I was writing for a while before you started coming to me, Tony, with the ideas for the peripheral stuff. Um, I wanna say you probably started doing that stuff first before I came up with the one idea that ended up in the novel about the multiverse. But it's kind of interesting now that I think about it because I honestly never even really thought of it this way until now. But how meta this all gets when you start thinking about it, because there's this idea. I won't get into the details of it to let people kind of discover that in the novel, but there's a brief mention of this idea of the multiverse, and it's kind of cool to think that like elements of Tommy's world have somehow ended up in our world, and there's this crossover of the different dimensions and universes where we can interact and kind of feel part of Tommy's world. Just as there are moments in the novel that if you read, you'll see that kind of like hint at other things happening
Yeah.
in a similar fashion. So it's kind of just a fun little notion of that the world building and the overlapping kind of uh, and we did use this in some of the marketing material, but kind of a never-ending story sort of vibe with that.
That's not the first time I've heard never-ending story invoked when try to get somebody in the headspace of where you're going with this novel. Is that kind of fantasy that's somehow tangible and is it real, is it not kind of thing? I think that's apropos, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a key element of the novel that we talked about at great length was, we want um, this to remain ambiguous. This
Mhm.
idea that characters are intruding in his reality. Throughout the story, you want like Anthony has talked about it actually a few times. Making sure that the anybody who wanted to argue that what he's experiencing is real could, or if somebody wanted to argue that it wasn't, they would have a valid point also.
Hmm.
So you're straddling that fine line of ambiguity um, with that aspect of the story.
So something you had said a little while ago, Tony, was something about the time you're working on it. I know 1980s Now had asked about early drafts, and you're saying going back in the memory banks. How far back in the memory banks? What was the genesis of Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions, whatever it was called initially? When did you start in earnest to go? This is going to be a book. Let's go. How long has that process been for you?
Is
See,
that's for Tony?
That's right. Anybody who can remember, I know we're old, so I would defer to anybody who has a better memory than me. But I'm just curious.
older than he is, so he'll
Okay.
probably better than.
So I mean, that was your idea from I don't even know when you probably came up with the initial concept. It was long before I came aboard, though. So you remember that?
Yeah, well, I think probably the original idea is probably 7 to 8 years old,
Ooh,
maybe.
okay. Wow.
Um, but um, but I didn't ever start working on that myself. It was kind of just a another endeavor that I had maybe planned to do if I finished the one that I actually completed 40 or 50 pages of,
Hmm.
which obviously never happens. And I actually presented that idea to Anthony along with this one, as here are two ideas that I have. Which one appeals to you? And obviously he chose this one. But as far as like the work starting in earnest, it's probably been a couple of years, maybe late summer, early fall of 2020, right?
Yeah, it would have been. I know that I started during NaNoWriMo. That's National Novel Writers Month, which is November.
Okay.
So whenever it was, it might have been. Does it doesn't go back to 2019, right? Would have been 2020 of November.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Um, so yeah, a good couple years. I mean, we I was particular about getting the work done and doing the work on a daily basis and really making sure that stuff was moving forward. So the writing process was, for me anyway, was fairly quick. Starting in November, we ended early, what, like maybe March-ish? It was early in the year, super early in the year. And then we spent a good chunk of that spring through the summer, I think midsummer-ish, editing, just reading and
Mhm.
editing and going back and revising a number of times until we felt comfortable with it, at which point we started submitting. And that was, months long process. As anyone who's ever done anything like this knows, the submission process can be kind of grueling. We started out with agents rather than going straight to publishers,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that ran for many months. And then I don't remember exactly when it was that we settled on the publisher and all that stuff, but um, it's been, I want to say it's been about a year in the works to get it from like publishing house to your doorstep kind of deal.
Okay. Wow.
I'd say that process began right when I ran out of patience.
With
That
Anthony or just in general?
yeah, with the whole
Yeah.
process of
Yeah.
submitting and going through the agent gatekeepers and
Yep.
like I know this story is good and I know people need to be reading it. I don't need them to you know put me off for 3 or 4 months. It's like I'm gonna give it 3 or 4 months, and if nobody bites by that time, I'm making something happen.
I want to quickly welcome some more people who joined us live. I see Butter Spider and Tree Riot showed up. Hey, welcome. Thank you for being here. If you did just join, or if you joined this, if you watched it after the fact, um, Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions just been out for about a month at this point as we record this interview. It's available now on Amazon. If you are interested in the book, as many Gen Xers likely will be, if you are readers and enjoy this kind of fantasy from our youth and kind of reliving that in a modern format, if you click the link in the description of the video, it takes you straight to Amazon to purchase a copy, for which Tony and Anthony will be infinitely grateful, I'm sure. But if you'll then take that order information and click on that second link that they've generously set up and enter your order details, they'll kick back a little bit to GenXGrownUp and they will help us out as well. If you're watching the replay of this video, you can likely still do that. So give it a shot if you were planning on picking up the book, and it'll help you. It'll help the guys, independent authors, and it'll help out the channel. So win, 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 win. Is that 3, 4, 5? A lot of wins. A lot of wins. I got to ask you real quick. So you sent out. Let me talk about. So you sent probably 3 or 4 months ago. You sent a press kit. Now I know press kits. That's not new, but this is not like a little press kit. This is this giant box that was loaded with stuff, just absolutely packed. And probably my favorite thing in it has got to be you made a ViewMaster with a reel highlighting the Cosmic Champions in there. Where did this come from? How did this come about? I mean, I get that it syncs up with the nostalgia we're reaching for. This is just one of the coolest pieces of swag I've ever seen promoting a book. Tell me a little bit about this.
That came about just as a result of trying to search for something else. I wanted something else physical,
Hmm.
tangible, but I didn't want it to be like print. That's something print based. Not another comic, not another brochure.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I was trying to think of items from childhood that maybe there's somebody out there that are creating you know these customized for promotional purposes or just for personal use. So, and I did find a outfit that was doing that.
Okay.
I thought this is perfect. You know, this
It
feels
is. It
like
is.
Viewmaster. I mean, it's Viewmaster. But so I was a little skeptical at first. So I was like, I wonder if they're still doing it. I wonder, what all this entails, if they come out halfway decent. And man, they turned out really, really nicely.
They
The
did.
three are inside the viewer is just spot on, and
I
it's like,
gotta say, man, when I first looked into the viewer,
Yeah.
I eh, because I'm wearing glasses, when I first looked in, I was like, "Oh man, I can't use this. It's like blurry or something. Everything looks double." And my friend's like, "No, man, it's 3D. Just let your eyes focus for a second." I had no idea. I had this thing around for weeks. I'm like, "Wait, they're 3D. It says right on it 3D." If you let your eyes, like, kinda adjust to it, it's this really cool 3D image in there,
yeah.
which I don't remember the old Viewmasters having three-dimensional view, maybe they did, I don't remember
Yeah.
that, though.
I don't know if they did.
I think some did, some didn't. They had the ability to, because it was biscopic, or what do we call that? Whatever the two. That's not the right word I just made up, but you know what I mean. It could not every single reel
Yeah.
was. Some of the cartoons didn't have it. I remember. So I see Tree Riot
Free Riot.
just chimed in and said a question. How many chapters did you submit to publishers, or a synopsis and a sample chapter? Like, how much did you have to have before you started that process?
That is okay. So normally, when you're submitting to agents or publishing houses, no matter what it is that they're asking for, you should always have a complete manuscript that is revised as much as you could possibly revise it. As far as what we sent, that usually is dependent on the agent and the publishing house. Agents more likely will ask for only a synopsis and sample chapters. I don't know that there may have been one or two agents that they usually won't ask for a full. That's like that's how you know you're moving up the ladder, is if they come back to you and they say that we want a full manuscript. So it's usually like 3 sample chapters, 10 sample chapters, synopsis, that kind of thing. Publishing houses, on the other hand, and these are specifically independent publishing houses, small publishing houses, because otherwise you can't usually send unagented manuscripts to the big publishers. They'll more than accept the entire manuscript. And I believe most of the publishing houses we sent to was full, maybe with the acceptance of, a few that may have just wanted like 3 to 10 chapters, something like that. But yeah, it just varies. It really depends on who's asking,
Yep.
wants it.
Another question just came in. It's kind of a two-parter, and I'll share. So Miss So asked, "How are you guys liking the interface for authors, for writers, working with Amazon as far as selling your book?" And the follow-up, Stubaka chimed in and asked, "How are their fees? Are they reasonable? What's your experience working as an author through Amazon and just that whole deal?"
The current
Actually,
book we're not dealing with, right?
right,
Oh,
right.
so you don't have to deal with it at all directly.
Yeah. The current book is, I guess, Greenleaf kind of deals with
Okay.
where the book ends up and how that's all dealt with. I have previously worked with Amazon. This is years ago, though. I usually try to publish traditionally, meaning through publishers. Um, I did I self-published a short story collection many, many years ago that I pulled. It's not available anymore. So I don't know that my experience from back then is very relevant anymore, because I know a lot has changed.
Okay.
But I remember being okay. There were a lot of options. They give you the Author Central, where you could kind of look at your book sales and things like that and kind of track what's happening there. But yeah, it's been many years since I dealt directly with selling on Amazon.
Okay. So your publisher really is handling that for you, is the thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. So there were a couple of follow-up questions, maybe to follow up with new questions, but before I get to that, I think Tree Riot has a great question about Tommy and which one of you identifies with him. But before you spill the beans there, what we haven't done yet is, if you've been living under a rock and haven't seen all this great material, could somebody give me the elevator pitch? What is the brief synopsis of what is going on in Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions? So you pick up the book. What is the adventure you're going to take me on?
Who draws the short straw this time?
check here. I think you did it last time, so it's probably on me this time to do this. Okay.
Okay.
Essentially, Tommy is an 11-year-old boy living in Ohio, uh, rural Ohio, and is he's ending his tenure at his elementary school,
Okay.
going into summer, and he's looking forward to everything, but stuff starts falling apart, and friendships falling apart. His parents' relationships kind of coming apart at the seams, and so he's having these struggles, um, and they kind of and once he gets through the summer and begins, his first year at middle school, it really amps up. The anxiety that he's feeling is just really intense, and so he's trying to find escapes. But he's a huge fan of the IP in the novel, which is Order of Cosmic Champions, which yes is a obvious homage to Masters of the Universe, and and there's a contest that he finds out that is taking place where kids can submit their designs for a new character, and the winner will have that character turned into an action figure. It'll be sold in stores, and they'll be the talk of the school. So he's very excited about that, and he kind of puts all his hope into this contest. Like everything that's falling apart around him, at least he's got this,
This is something he can hang his hat on. He can maybe have this. Okay.
And it's not really a spoiler that things don't turn out well there, and it kind of drives him over the edge, and he's like, I got to do something about this, and so he makes some pretty bad choices as far as what to do about it. And he ends up on an adventure, and there's fantasy elements that come into play here, where um, again, we talked about the ambiguity. He's not sure if what he's experiencing is real or not. Other people, it's obviously not real to other people, just to him. But that doesn't, persuade him that it's not necessarily something that's actually happening. And so there's this back and forth between reality and overcoming obstacles and struggles,
Yep.
and the equivalent of that in the fantasy realm. So where he's battling characters, from the show, and so he's just trying to basically find himself, overcome these struggles, and come to understand what is most important. A lot of lessons to be learned in it.
So that being, there's a lot that I think most everyone, especially people of our generation, could probably relate to in there. So Tree Riot, we circle back around to his question. Which one of you, maybe both of you, identify most closely with your protagonist?
I think both.
Well, both. You said both.
Yeah, I think we both do.
Would you agree, Anthony? You think so?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so Tommy obviously, if you follow the naming conventions, you could kind of see the similarities between Tommy's name and Tony's name.
Right.
Uh, and obviously was based on, as we had mentioned, based on an experience from his childhood to a certain extent. We
Mhm.
always kind of try to draw that line, like not everything in the book is based on facts and reality or anything like
Right.
that. As the writer, no matter what I'm writing, I always am putting parts of myself into characters, into
Sure.
scenarios. Um, I was actually joking around with, I think my mom was reading the book, and she like every once in a while get in touch and be like, "So you put that in there, huh?" Yeah, yeah, you caught that, huh? I
Yeah.
forget that, like, when people know you really well,
Hmm.
they can spot those
Mhm.
moments in the novels. I've had that happen throughout my my writing career, where people who are very close to me who are reading the books are like, "Oh, I could so see you in this character or that character."
Yeah.
So, I relate to Tommy to a certain extent, not completely. I mean, there are obviously elements of the character that are nothing like me. But the same could actually be said for almost every character in the novel. Almost, not every. But there's always that little bit, when you're writing, you do even if you're not like the character,
Hmm.
you have to understand their perspectives. You have to, be able to see through their eyes. So in that respect too, I identify with pretty much everyone in the novel.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Sounds
but
like
yeah, there are definitely those connections.
makes sense. It's like resounding both. It looks like you've both invested not only your time and energy, but also your spirit, kind of, and your experience into this. So that's uh, that's kind of that. Those kind of passion projects are the things that always end up turning out like just they're so rich. There's so much more to it than oh, I wrote a book because it's time to write the third book. And no, this is something that you've had in your head and you had to get it out, and you identify with it, which was really cool. Stubaka had a question earlier. Hey, when does John start eating nasty stuff for donations? That's not this stream, but I'll tell you, that one's coming. In fact, I just restocked on some really hot sauce. So stick around,
Uh,
Stubaka. So we talked about the peripheral media, and I see a couple more questions in the chat I will get to, but I want to talk about the fact that you have music for this book. Let me say that again. There's music for this book. One of the things that came in the press kit was this amazing. I don't have it in reach. Is it? Yeah, somewhere here, but it looked like a cassette. Anthony's got his. Had a little USB thing in it. Like the ViewMaster, right? It looks like a tape. You pop it open. There's a tape in it, but it's a USB memory stick, and that is just the coolest thing. So we have a sample. We have the theme music here. I have the video for it. Look at that thing. That's another one of those peripheral things. It's so cool. So where did the idea? I know. Look, I got the press kit and I read, hey, here's music that this is from Tommy's World. Listen to it while reading the book, that kind of thing. Was this just another one of those things that I'm all in on this? Where did music come from, and how did that come about?
was just another um, aspect of wanting to bring something into real world from Tommy's world. But I think also it was a way to feel more not necessarily connected, but like excited for certain things in the story. There are like parts in the story where each song is kind of appropriate. Um, so I went through lots of different music. I didn't want to license. I couldn't license anything too popular because you're talking
Mhm.
quite a bit of money there. But I'm a huge fan of synthwave, retro wave music, um, and and then also any music that's kind of a throwback, whether it's rock or um, anything but country, really. But
All right,
uh,
there's a bias.
yeah, yeah, there's definite bias. So
You
yeah,
know, I don't think I ever shared this with you, Tony. How excited and special it was just to me that you started licensing all that music and getting the soundtrack together. Like you've I don't know if you listened to the audiobook, I think, but one of my first novel that ever came out is called Soundtrack to the End of the World. And one of my like fever dreams as a young writer was to put that book out with an accompanying soundtrack,
yeah,
Ah.
which I obviously was never able to actually do. And in fact, I had to take out all of the licensed music in the novel itself that had lyrics to, like Tool and Rage Against the Machine
Oh
and
no.
System of a Down. I couldn't have any of that in there because you need to license that stuff,
Mm,
even if it's just
mm.
some lyrics. Um, so when Tony got in touch and was saying he's doing this soundtrack, I was like, by God, you've done it again, man.
You evil genius. So why don't we play this? So this is the video of the main theme for Tommy. Is that right? Is that the video that I've got here?
yeah.
Okay. All right. When we get back, we got some more questions to answer, but first, let me share this with you.
Somewhere in the darkest
Yeah, I saw all the comments in the chat during that. It's montage worthy. It's super 80s. Listen to guitar work, journey-ish, all that cool stuff. And so Tony, Anthony, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about acquiring and getting this music. Before we do, if you're just joining the stream, I want to share with you what's going on here. I'm sitting here with Anthony Great and Anthony Rapino, the authors of Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions, a great novel just out about a month ago. It's centered around experiences that we had growing up as Generation Xers. As we talk about the book, you have any questions, put them in the chat. If you're ready to pick up the book, if you use the link in the description of the video, grab the book, take your details from Amazon, go to that second link and share them. Not only do you get a great copy of a great book, not only do the Tonys applaud your efforts because you bought one of their books, but also they're applauding now. They're gonna kick back a little bit back to GenXGrownUp as a thank you for exposing you to their work. Which, if you've watched GXG, we have a great Tommy spot on the front of many of our videos. We've been partners for a long time and proud to be. So when we left, we were listening to that music. I know Anthony was saying, I'm glad I can't hear it because it gets stuck in my head all the time. And then he messed up and he read some of the captions and it was stuck in his head anyway. I want to, it
3
really,
a.m. I'm telling you, 3 a.m. I'm
it's,
gonna.
it's so wonderfully 80s. I wonder if you could share with me what it was like getting this music and getting the artists together. And we talked about why you did it, how did it come about, and how'd you do it?
Yeah, so I wanted to have just one song that was specifically for the soundtrack. There were actually three, but this one was I'd only planned on one, and this was it. And I wanted it to be from somebody who knew what they were doing.
Mhm.
And I thought, what's it gonna hurt to ask, some of these legends for their help? And I don't know if I actually mentioned this ever, but the first person that I approached was um, Leon. I think his name's Leon Kenny, and he created the theme for Mask because I was a huge Mask
Okay.
television show fan, but never heard from him. And then I thought, well, I could try Stan Bush, but yeah, that's not gonna happen. It was like 3 days, and I got an email back, and it said Stan Bush, and I was like, he responded, but it's probably no.
Right. It's
And
probably
it
the publicist saying thank you, but no thanks, right? That's what you thought.
I was like, this can't be real. He wanted to know about it, and so I explained to him the gist of the novel, and I just said, if you could create something that would kind of encompass not just the Order of Cosmic Champions, the property, a little bit of Tommy's story and the mystery of what's real, what's not, overcoming obstacles. He kind of wanted a direction, and just to be able to go back and forth with him in the creation of music was amazing. It's like another one of those experiences that I would never ever get to take part in if it weren't for this.
You're like, what am I doing talking to this guy, right? I've been in that situation. Yeah.
I've got many of those moments where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing talking to these people? But people are you find will surprise you how personable somebody can be, particularly celebrities.
Hmm.
You you think I'm just a nobody. They're not gonna respond to this, but I'm surprised. I've been surprised many times
Hmm.
with this experience.
That's cool. Turns out they're just people. Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of people, as soon as I showed the ViewMaster and Anthony showed the tape, they're like, "Wait a minute, how do we not press get the USB stick? I want the ViewMaster. I want that stuff." Is that stuff available for the average? Look, it might not be a celebrity that Tony thought he couldn't talk to, but if you're a standard viewer of Gen X Grown Up, and Tree Ride even said, "Here's GXG making me want to spend more money again." Sorry about that. We are enablers. Can they get a hold of any of that stuff still? Is that available for purchase?
Yeah, on the official website in the store, all of that stuff is available.
Yep, I just threw the link down in there. So Stubaka, I saw, was asking. Tree was asking. Several people asking about the tape. A lot of good music on there. The ViewMaster is really cool. Just put the link in the description or in the chat there, and you're welcome. And I apologize. So twofold. So this is gonna play, I think, right into another video clip that we have. Inscrutable Owl was asking in the chat. And I know the answer to this, but I'm not going to answer it. Maybe Anthony, you could answer this. Hey, are there any cool supervillains in Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions?
Why, yes, there are.
Yeah,
there are. There are a couple actually, and I took particular glee in writing a few scenes with the one character, especially a particular rest stop scene at a gas station. That kind of tapped into my horror roots as I was writing that scene. Really got into it. I try not to go full on horror in the novel anywhere, but there are moments, where I kind of indulge a little bit, especially with the villains. Yes, there are multiple villains in this.
So I have another video piece that I think is Phantos, and we'll set this up. I won't do it justice. So what are we going to see here? This is some of the baddies, I think, right?
So is this a music?
It's Phantos and Ghoul was the nickname here, right? Yep.
So this is a visualizer that I actually submitted to New Retro Wave, but they, I don't think at the time were taking submissions. But the song was created by a man named Tim Butler, who is behind the pilot, PYLOT. Kind of mythos and music. It's kind of like his music plays a story out. Each piece is kind of like a different part of a story.
Okay.
But I approached him. I'd like to get something synthwave that would be awesome for like the background of a fight, like final battle.
Yeah. Yep.
And he is really good at kind of putting you in different places in the music. So like it might start out a certain way and then it goes to another place where it's more intense, and then goes back to the choir. And he's really good at those transitions. And I said, just do what you do, but envision that there's an epic battle taking place while you're doing it. That's the story that you're telling with this song, and he created this as a result.
Is this the one with the killer Skulligar voiceover?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I love that.
All right. Well, I can't set up any better than that. Let's go.
We live in a complex system of interweaving thoughts, each one imagining the next in a cosmic Ouroboros. You crave the truth as I do. Come with us, and we will pull back the curtain together.
We were watching you in the chat. We saw people ready to dance. I saw that Miss So and Kat were going to hit the floor. Tree Riot's going to put on his swatch, fast a few friendship pins, and hit the floor.
Nice.
Oh man! If last time, I'm going to just cover this real quickly. If you're just joining the stream, we probably have another 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. We have a few more questions to cover. We're interviewing Anthony Great and Anthony Rapino, who wrote and published Tommy the Order of Cosmic Champions, a great novel set in the era of Generation X, just the kind of right up our alley kind of thing. If you are interested in this book, if you don't have it yet, right in the description, there's a link you can follow to Amazon and pick it up. And if you do that and opt to, you can take the information from Amazon, go to the second link, and not only then will you get a great copy of a great book, not only will the Tonys be tickled pink, but also they've agreed to kick back a little bit to Gen X Grown Up just for helping get the word out a little more. So, and if you're watching this after the fact, not the live stream, that link will continue to work for some time. So if you haven't got the book yet, here's a chance to do good like 5 times in a row with one purchase. So. um, so a couple things we'll talk about. One, I'm going to circle back to. We talked a little bit about these action figures, Anthony, that Tony was hot about and he got over. I knew that when I got my press kit, it wasn't a thing. Do you yet have hands on any action figures that you can show us for some of these crazy characters, or are they coming soon?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think I have the packaged ones, and then Tony, you have unpackaged ones, the open ones. Or is that what you said? I thought you were.
Actually, so.
But yeah, we have the Pierce Phantos figure.
Look at
that. Has a couple points of articulation. There you go.
Oh, look at that.
Out of the package there.
And Tony did an awesome job with this stuff. I mean, he has a whole workup of the. We don't have all of those different figures there, but he had it worked up as if there was an entire toy line. So only a couple of the figures made it through the portal, is what happened. So, and then you already saw the unpackaged one, but there's the Mechanigal, which is one of the villains that we were talking about, right? Mechanigal.
Mm-hmm.
I love that guy.
Wow, those are awesome. So is those 2 figures available, and are those also available on your website as well? They are? All right. I see a lot of people drooling over the action figures. I'm going to put the link again. Looking for any of this cool swag, head over to the Tony's site. You can check that out.
Another one is experiences that, again, I'd never really get to try other than, for the sake of this, dealing with a manufacturer overseas and trying to find who could produce these, and there were some headaches and some missteps, and I had to actually have them entirely repacked because once
Anthony's having flashbacks. Be careful.
I'm gonna have PTSD here.
You told me about that. I was like,
no. Yeah, I sent them to North Carolina, and they had to reprint the cards, and they were able to use the existing bubbles, thankfully, to reseal them. Yeah, that was a mess.
Okay, so real quick before we go to the next question, Tree Riot had a question. Is it better for you guys if they pick up the book from Amazon or straight from your site?
Amazon.
From Amazon.
Mainly because the ability to get your rating, your ranking up higher. More exposure you get, the higher your rating.
So there's benefits beyond the actual what the cut they take. It's going to get you higher on the Amazon rating list. Oh, I see. And another thing that I'll mention that I don't think any of you have mentioned because you're too humble yet. Once you have the book, you got to go to Amazon and leave a great review, right? Those reviews help immensely for authors, especially independent authors who don't have the backing of huge publicity budgets. Just go on there, leave a review, say I read it, love it, whatever, any personal things you have about it that might help get it up there. I mean, we're not asking you to shill honest reviews, but I know you're going to dig it. And so once you do, leave a review, I think is really powerful, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's incredible help, and always honest reviews. But no matter what, they push you up. I don't know how all the algorithms work or anything like that, but I'm sure there are little backdoor secrets to all that stuff that knocks things up on the lists and make them more visible. We're I just discovered the other day, I posted about it because I was super excited, that we're number one, our novel is number one on the most wished for list for specifically the teen runaways category, I believe. So apparently enough people put it on their wish lists
There you
in
go.
from that category that got knocked it up. That's cool, man.
That's
You
great.
know, little
Congratulations.
that is a lot of fun to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something that I look, I know the answer to this question, but I'm gonna ask it like a journalist, like I don't know the answer to this question because I'm clearly a professional journalist. So you you this is a novel targeted to our demographic, 80s kids, people that grew up in that era, or people love that kind of thing. I've got to guess you've sprinkled some Easter eggs in through this. I don't want you to give away any of the best stuff, but is that something that you considered, and how much is in there? How did you choose what to go with?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, you wanna start, Tony?
well, I would say, obviously, you got to drop in um, certain things, food items, and places that you may have shopped, or things that are familiar to you. There's quite a bit of references to food. Not It's not like you're not going to drown in these references. They're all very natural,
Hmm.
but um, there were parts where we changed some references. I got more obscure with some of them because I thought, I don't want them all to just be really obvious references. Maybe we should put some references here and there that somebody's got to be like, was that a real thing? And then
Like
they
like a deeper cut, right? Like you really have to know your stuff.
exactly. Were there really fruit and cream Twinkies? That doesn't sound familiar.
Mhm.
So yeah, things like that, and then the occasional reference to something that never existed, like a restaurant that never existed, but is maybe an in joke for something. But yeah, there were quite a few references to things that will be familiar to all of us that grew up throughout the '80s. And
Yeah.
Tony, Anthony,
Going
probably.
back to oh, sorry, I went over you there.
Oh, I said you probably have a few that you could mention.
Yeah, just going back to your original question, that's I think started out the stream, if I'm not mistaken, or at least one of the first ones.
Hmm.
That was one of the reasons that I chose, of the two options that Tony presented me with, for writing the novel for with him. The the idea of getting to just immerse myself in the '80s for a while
Hmm.
was too good to pass up. I was like,
I get it.
of my supreme geekery, of which there are many elements, I just love all the '80s stuff, '90s stuff, and I was like, I can't not write this. This has to happen.
Testify. Oh, we get it.
So yeah, we dove in, and as Tony said, we were very careful not to, you know, make it like nostalgia porn. It's not, it's
Mhm.
not overbearingly like, oh my god, cut it out with this now. But
Perfect.
we wanted to make sure that there were a good amount of uh, era accurate references, which we
Mhm.
tried our best with. And I always kind of like we have a little loophole just in case we got anything too wrong.
I,
I won't
I
say
was
what
about
that.
to say, did you run into like any like anachronistic stuff that didn't actually work or wasn't out
Mhm.
yet or that kind of thing? Did you run into much of that, or did you?
We caught a couple
Uh,
after the ARC came out. The advanced reader's copy is
mhm.
ARC. We caught it after the ARC, but before the final
That's good.
publication. So there were a couple of '90s things that were in there that we
Uh,
kind of got out. Um, there may still be a couple, there was a reader or two who like tried to really pinpoint the year. I forget if we put the specific year anywhere. It might be in some like the supplemental material. I don't know that it's in the novel itself anywhere. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Tony. I don't remember for sure. But yes, someone was kind of saying, "Oh, I noticed this, and this, so it must be this year."
mm,
We're like, well, I definitely had a particular year in mind while I was writing, but there's wiggle room there, and there's that loophole. I won't tell you what the loophole is. Oh, you'll have to read the novel to find that
yep.
out. But the loophole that gives us an out, just in case there is like any supreme anachronistic element
Oh.
that is just like, no, you guys got that wrong.
Actually, not quite, right? You have a way to explain it away. I love it. I love it. Oh, so clearly, Tony R, Tony G, you guys have a great working relationship. You guys have put out a great novel. Before I let you go, I have to ask a pointed question, and that is, what's next for Tommy? What's next for this team? Do you have something coming yet? I see you kind of like, did I did I tread on dangerous ground? You don't have to break it here, but is there something else coming? What's happening?
Tony has an idea. Tony pitched me a sequel idea early on before we even published this.
Hmm.
At the moment, I think we're both pretty burnt out and ready to kind of ride the wave of this novel for a while, see how it does, see how things go. So there's no definitive answer to that. There's no definitely we're doing it kind of thing, but there are ideas out there. And I think if I gave it a little, once we both give it a little breathing room, I wouldn't be surprised if, some time passes and one or both of us message the other and say, I'm ready. We got to do this now. So there's always that possibility. There's no definite. I don't know if Tony falls more solidly on one side or the other of that particular issue, but there are ideas. There's a possibility.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's funny. You were asking that as Miss So was asking, will there be a sequel? And I want to quickly call out Kat Ballou, who just joined as a member on YouTube here. Thank you so much, Kat. Welcome. I think I would like to say goodbye. Oh, Red Robot, what's going on there? Thank you so much for the super chat. That's awesome. As we're winding down, I want to give you guys the last word. I'm going to go out on this amazing of another piece of media that's so cool. It's this animated introduction thing. We're going to show that going out. You guys want to stick around for that. It's a great way to cap off this interview. Before I leave, I have to thank you guys so much for asking me to be a sponsor early on as you guys were ramping up for the book, and it's been a great partnership, and agreeing to sit down with me and talk about the novel. I think it's so important that as many people as possible are aware of what you guys have done here. If you're watching this after the fact, link in the description. Head right there to Amazon, pick one up. If you will follow through to the second link, you can put in your details and a little kickback for GenXGrownUp, which we'll all be grateful for. But before I go, we jump into the animation and we say goodbye to everyone. Any last parting words that you'd like to say to anybody who might be reading, who might be picking this book up, or you just like to share with our audience before we let you go?
I would only say one, that I hope it's a really enjoyable experience, and I hope that what the intention, what comes through to the reader is exactly what we intended, which is just an homage to that childhood, all the wonderful experiences and the not so wonderful ones. But also, if you're thinking of picking it up or you are reading it, please do leave a review. Because that, like you said, that's a big help.
It's big. Anthony, how about you? Final words for our audience, potential readers?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having us on. I really, really appreciate it. This was a blast. I had a great time.
Same here.
Getting to hang out and just chat about stuff is so much fun. I love these. This streaming stuff is just too much. So thank you, everyone who's watching. Thank you so much. I have been kind of watching the chat. And I apologize if I missed anyone. I was trying to chat back when I had an opportunity to. But thank you all for watching. And if you get the book, I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you have one of those never-ending story moments where there's a storm going on outside and you got the covers over your head and there's an apple close by and you don't know quite what's real and what's not. That's what we're hoping for, is just that immersive, nostalgic experience for everyone. And if you don't get that, that's okay too.
Fantastic. All right. Everyone who's tuned in for the stream, or if you're watching this after the fact, thank you for being here. Thanks so much for watching. Love that you take the time to consume our content, whether it's here or a podcast or over on the website. All those links are in the description, of course. And I'm going to leave you with, I think I saved the best for last, this last media bit. This animation is really, really cool. So if you don't yet have it, go pick up, read, and review Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions. Tony and Anthony, one last time, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
berry cereal is coming your way. How about a monster for breakfast today?
The host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Are none. Chocolate wafers, chocolate cream, peanuts, and pure milk.
In the farthest reaches of space, millions of light years beyond our galaxy, lies the planet Teltum, home to the universe's greatest mysteries, gravest threats, and bravest heroes. Home to the Order of Cosmic Champions.